Today we're in the Dalles investigating St. Peter's Landmark Church. Come join us as we go inside and look at all the wonderful antiques and artifacts. Terry and I were on a mission to explore some ghost towns in eastern Washington, and we drove through downtown the Dalles and came across St. Peter's Landmark Church. The church was built in 1897 and actually dedicated on St. Patrick's Day in 1998, and the church was used until 1971, where the Catholic Church there in the Dalles decided to build a new church. And so we decided to stop, take a look around, and do a little video on the outside as part of our trip. And we noticed a gentleman that was walking around, and there was some chalk on the steps, and he wiped that off. And was kind of looking the building over and just to make sure that everything was okay, fine. And we heard him say this.
Hello. Hi. We're closed, but would you like to see the inside?
They built a new church. It's out a couple miles from here. And so there was a local group. I was one of the original people that started raising money to buy it. And so we raised the money to buy it, and we've had it ever since. We use it for weddings, concerts. We'll rent it for anything as long as it isn't going to hurt the building. So in the basement, when we bought it, was just a dirt floor, two big oil burning furnaces. One was over there and one was down the other way. They didn't use the basement for anything except for storage. And there were no bathrooms in the building when we bought it. I don't know what they did, but that brick building next door was the rectory. And then that big gray building over here was called Vote Hall. So that was a complex. And then across the street, starting where that street goes down there was a big Catholic boarding school. So there was the school, and then this building, the rectory, and Vote Hall. This staircase is new as of about 6 or 7 years ago. I hated to put a chairlift on it, but when we have concerts, there's sometimes 6 or 7 elderly people that would not be able to attend if they couldn't go up this way, because those front steps are a beast. The organ is a Kilgan organ from the Midwest, and it works just fine. Those are metal pipes up there, but there's a whole room full of tigerwood pipes, and it works just really well. The console is where that little light bar is. Then the windows are by the Povey brothers. They moved, really famous stained glass makers. They moved from the East Coast to Portland, Oregon in about 1885, 1890. And then they worked in Portland until the late 50s. I think we're fortunate to have what you call stained glass windows versus cut glass. And the difference, of course, is that they took a clean piece of clear glass, painted the different oxides in it, and fired it in a kiln so that the oxide wouldn't come off. And then the other ones, the pigmentation goes all the way through. We restored probably about 2/3, I think, of the windows. What happens with stained glass windows is there's the caming, and the glass sits down in it, and eventually that starts to give out, and sometimes dirt gets in it, and so they start to pooch. And then eventually, if you don't fix them, take them apart and recame them. That's called the leading. It's called caming. If you don't recame them, they'll just literally fall apart. So, but it's really expensive. 2 of those big windows are $7,500, and that was the price 3 or 4 years ago. So it's probably gone up again. The ceiling is pressed tin. The building has been painted only one time that we know of, in the late 40s or early 50s. A man named Theodore Brash painted it, or Brash. We have a self-portrait of him in the back. And he added the stenciling. It looks like mosaic. Well, it's actually stenciled on, painted on. And that's how he made his living, just painting churches all across the United States. Took him almost a year to paint the inside. And almost didn't get to keep the statuary. The church actually took it out to the new building, and the Monsignor at that time decided it was too old-fashioned looking for their new building. Thank goodness for us, and so we got them back. We don't have all of the Stations of the Cross. There's supposed to be 7 on both sides, and we're short, I think, 8 now. And what happened with those is Monsignor, there were wealthy wheat ranching families, of course, involved in the church, and the matriarch of one of those families, he gave all 14 of them to her. And then she gave them to family members and aunts and uncles. And so over the years, we've gotten, that's 5, 6, about 8 back. And so we're still short 6. But that's not the original altar. There's a picture of the old one in the back. It's Carrara marble from Italy, and that was replaced in the late 40s or early 50s. And they actually brought artisans over to install it. This little pump organ is out of the church that preceded this one, and it sat right behind. This church was just butted up against it. Originally, of course, there was no air conditioning. So apparently what they did, these windows are hinged in the middle. There's Lexan on the outside, so now if you wanted to open them, you couldn't, of course, but they used to open I guess the priest would open it in the morning, and then you can see a grate up there. That was a big fan, and so they would turn that fan on and pull air from the outside through those windows and then out the top, and of course that would vent the ceiling area too. Well, that little organ is kind of interesting. It actually isn't a part of this building per se, and we don't collect things, but it is from the Dalles. The legs collapse on it, and a preacher used to put it behind him on his horse and go out to do for in different small towns. And then there's some few things in here. The Catholics just seem to want all new stuff. You know, they left the chimes, they left the incense burner, they left the cross was on a staff, and I made that holder for it because I couldn't put it in there. Monsignor Stone didn't work in this building, he did at the new church, and he's since passed. These little fonts, there was a couple from Longview, Washington that came through a couple times. They loved the building, and they had this font collection, and they were going to move. They had them behind their bed. They showed us a picture, and there's over 100 of them in there. And they didn't want their kids weren't interested in them. They didn't want to break up the set. They had collected rosaries that go in them. I'm not Catholic, so when they started talking about these fonts, I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. You know, you put them next to your door, you'd have water, well, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's where those came from. It's not a very good place to display them. I mean, they're too many close together, but. And they left baby Jesus, they had a manger scene and some sheep and different things. So, but it seemed like every drawer we went in, there was artifacts of some kind or another. You know, they just left all this stuff, and which was fortunate for us.
I want to thank Doug Leach for the tour. He's one of the founding members here at the church, and really appreciate him taking the time to show us around. Thanks, Doug. We've accomplished our mission. We've investigated St. Peter's Landmark Church in the Dalles, Oregon. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked our video, please send a comment, give us a like, or better yet, subscribe to our channel. Once again, thanks for watching Senior Students.